So this is basically what we're starting off with, the room that will become the closet. And here is my wife's IKEA sample that she basically designed that from scratch. We got a contractor to estimate everything, went through a lot of different contractors. A lot of them can't even do a sloped ceiling, which is our big issue. We have sloped ceilings there. We finally found a carpenter who could do the slope ceiling, and he was charging um, like 25,000 for the design that my wife wanted, but it only had 5 drawers versus my wife's 16, and it also did not go as deep. The drawers and the closet itself was not as deep as she wanted. Here, I'm basically framing out the sides of the closet with recessed screws so they don't stick out, and basically just trying to get everything in properly. Did have a lot of issues literally every step of the way, and that's what took a really long time to figure everything out. If I had a track saw here, cutting these slopes would be a lot easier, but the slopes I basically had to measure everything out by hand and then cut them. Um, the issue though was when I was measuring away from the wall, the it turns out the wall was sloped in, so my measurements were all off. And then later I find out that, and you'll see it right here, I'm actually cutting the bottom of this shelf because the floor itself is sloped. So the shelf is not actually sitting where it's supposed to be on the last 2 units. So I actually end up having to cut the bottoms off of both of them. I did try to sand everything down. I tried to pull out the floorboards, but I needed to cut an inch. Basically needed an inch and a half of extra space. And so the only solution was to cut the bottom off because sanding wasn't going to work, and taking the floorboards out only gave me like 3/4 of an inch. Had to buy a table saw, learn how to use it, fill all these gaps in because of the fact that my calculations were off to begin with. Here I'm cutting off the other end of the that last unit because it wasn't fitting properly. And then later we find out that the ceiling was sloped, and so I gotta figure that out too. But yeah, cut all the triangles out to fill the gaps because this is basically 6 foot high units. And we wanted to keep all the space we could get. I had to do a bunch of calculations here because we wanted all the drawers originally to be an even size, but according to my wife's design, some units would have 3 drawers and some would have 2 drawers. And we were going to be putting a drawer face on top of every single drawer. And we also wanted to leave an arbitrary 2 millimeter gap. So I had to do a bunch of calculations and a bunch of algebra to figure out um, how to get the drawer faces to be as even as possible. That really didn't work out to make all the drawer faces exactly the same space because some had 3 drawers, some had 2, and the space between each one wasn't the same because we had well, I mean, when you look at it, you'll see the difference. Just the heights were off. Um, so we ended up just making the bottom of all of the drawers, the bottom drawer, the same size, and it would be bigger than all the other drawers. And then when you do the equation for that, everything ends up working out, so you can have everything more or less even. I did originally spray inside our den, and spray paint literally got everywhere. Even though I thought I set up an okay spray booth here, I ended up having to move everything outside instead, and had to get an official spray booth because the spray paint was still going everywhere. I had to cut out the baseboards there to make room for what you'll see what goes in there later. But basically, the baseboard trim is gonna insert into the original baseboard. A track saw would have been really helpful, but instead I had to resort to just throwing up a 2x4 as my track, and had to just anchor everything down in place. Here I'm just filling all the gaps with wood filler and spackle just to make sure that the finish is basically flush and there's not a lot of gaps. And here is my official spray booth, which was very helpful. I didn't have a turntable, so I just made one. That worked out pretty well with a table, or no, it was a spinny chair, a trash can, and a trash bag. I do end up deciding to put or rather spray all the trim ahead of time so I can get the front, back, and sides. And that was a triple prime, triple paint, triple top coat. And I also had to go back and fix it a whole bunch of times because sometimes bugs would get into it, or sometimes I would try to clean it off because there was a big drop and that would mess it up and have to fix it again. Here I'm just cutting all of the remaining trim down to the appropriate sizes. You can see my whole setup here. We spray painted the drawer handles and the poles as well. Here I'm laying down the baseboard and just making sure everything is flush as possible. I did have to custom cut these. Basically, I didn't want to cut based off the shortest height because it would be way too short since the one end of the unit was really, really short. So I basically cut, um, I think it was like 8 point something centimeters just to get things flush enough so everything was flush with the bottom original baseboard. And then I cut the last unit at an angle just to make everything fit properly. And here, because there's no support behind the baseboards themselves, I just cut out little pieces of the basically just cardboard pieces uh, that were originally from the back wall of the units and slotted them in behind here to give it more stability. And over here, basically we filled all the holes with spackle to make sure we got a flushed appearance there. Primed everything, double, triple primed everything, triple painted everything, and then we triple top coated everything. This is the finished product after all the spray painting, or most of the spray painting anyways. My wife also wanted lights, so we did cut grooves into the side, and we strung up some lights there as well. Lights are going up, and here's the result. And this is after the trim goes up over top of the lights. And here's my contraption set up to to align everything and get the drawer handles to go exactly where we wanted them to go. So these are the custom drawer faces that we put on. At the end I caulked all of the edges that were showing just to cover everything up. Filled all the gaps as best I could. Everything was nailed together with finishing nails, basically just to give everything more support, especially because these were wide units and IKEA, just to give it more durability. That light fixture is also brand new. We installed that, and I also hooked all of the LEDs and all the lights up to a smart outlet.